centralized location that they can operate from. So it's time to think differently about how you set up your business, how you work together, because this is not a time when we're going to make it on our own. It's actually about collaboration. Recently, an entrepreneur told me about having to team up with another company that they offered similar services, and they needed to purchase some equipment, some really expensive equipment, and on their own they really couldn't do it. And I'm talking about someone right here, and they literally got together and they said, okay, we're going to do this together, we can afford it. Separately it's going to cost us too much even if we took a loan. And they teamed up, they did it, and they're using that equipment together. So you can find people who are willing to work with you. You may just need to go outside of your usual circle, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, that it's not possible. Make sure you have your agreements, contracts that everyone signs, and you have to be willing to keep your end of the bargain. If you find that you're reaching a challenge, be upfront. Don't wait till the last minute and not pay or keep your commitment. Allow the other person, the partner, to know what is happening. Back in the 80s, I worked for, it was my first job right out of, it wasn't my first job, it was my first real job. I had probably several little, assistant secretary things. But it was my first real job. I was a secretary at a landscaping company in St. Martin. And my job was to assist the project manager with billing, and we did very large landscaping projects for hotels, large corporations, private villas. And I always remember coming right around Christmas season, there would be this gentleman who would always want to upgrade his yard, and every few years he literally would come through and give them work, and he would just send me a blank check. The project manager would walk in with a blank check and says, here, when the project is done, which might be 2-3 months down the road, just fill it in and deposit it. And so one day I was just so curious about who is this guy that can just keep sending us blank checks that then says, okay, fill it in when you're done. And then my boss told me, he says, he makes his company in the US makes car parts. And he doesn't make a lot of car parts. All he does is make the nuts that go with the bolts. He doesn't make the nut and the bolt. He only made millions and millions of nuts, which were cents on a dollar. So often we think that we need to be serving everyone, and you really can't, because everyone is not your customer. It's time to focus. You need to figure out who is your customer, and what exactly do they need, and how can I be exceptional at delivering it to them. You've got to become religious about being exceptional, and treating your customers exceptionally well will make them be your biggest champions. One of the things I've found, especially about Montserrat, is that people aren't afraid to tell you when they experience good service. Maybe it's because it's rare, which isn't a good thing. We need to become known all around us as having exceptional service. But people will also tell other people about you and evangelize for you if you delivered for them. And that's what we want to become better at. For consultants or people in the service industry, what are you known for? What do you want to be known for? What do you need to do to establish yourself as an expert in this area? If I said my car needs some body work, you want to be the first person everyone thinks of to recommend to me. What would you need to do to become the top bodywork mechanic on the island? The top chef, the top sales agent, the top hair salon. We have a saying, the riches are in niches. Stop trying to be a jack of all trades or servicing everyone that maybe only 1 or 2 people actually want it. Focus on what makes you unique and exceptional. If you must make cuts, cut away the things that are taking away from the time and resources from allowing you to be the top of the market. Look at added value opportunities that you can give to your customer base. I know sometimes we're afraid that if the person walks out the store without buying something, that's the end of it. It's quite okay to recommend to them somewhere else that they can get that thing that you may not have. Be generous in sharing information even if it means that sale walked out, because you would have left them with a good impression about you and a spirit of generosity as well. So now I want to just dive into this idea of building out a niche. And I know I'm going a bit longer than I said I would. But I'm going to use, I love a good roti, and my children and I disagree on what makes a good roti. Who here, makes the best roti? And I won't tell you who's my favorite. But let's say, for example, if I ran the numbers, like we talked about earlier, that nothing else in my shop is selling but roti. The data is there. It doesn't matter that I have fried chicken for sale, patties, saltfish, fried fungi. The only thing that is selling is roti. At the end of the day, I'm throwing away food or I have to give it away. I have two choices. I either am going to spend more money trying to find new customers to buy those other things, or I am going to focus on what is selling. And in this marketplace, we cannot serve everyone. I want to tell you that you can't. Everyone is not your customer. So I may want to buy fried chicken, but I know somebody who makes fried chicken better than you. And so let's focus for a minute on this exceptionally good roti that is selling in your shop. But let's say, for example, for your financial goal for 2021 is going to be you want to make $100,000 in sales in your shop. That's your target. And if we try to sell a roti at $12, that would mean you have to sell 8,333 rotis every year, right? To hit your $100,000 target. This means you have to sell 694 rotis a month, 174 a week, or at least 35 a day if you are working 5 days a week. But from the data we showed, you're only selling about 15 rotis. So that means you're going to up your sales by at least 20 rotis a day if you're going to hit your $100,000 target. Now, the current market, in the current market, the forecast is not for business to increase. We understand about travel. If businesses are shutting down and people don't have as much expendable income, there's a potential lockdown. It means you could lose those $15 a day in sales. So what happens? Here are a couple different ways that you could continue to serve your roti customers and maybe even gain some new ones while you're at it. So the first thing I would do if I was still open, I would start to sell different types of rotis. So not just chicken roti, but maybe saltfish, shrimp. Is there such a thing as a vegan roti? Then if that's something that you can add to appeal to people who are vegans or just eat vegetarian, which are two different things, you can do that. How about if there was a lockdown, but I still had a craving for my roti? Could you consider packaging and selling the roti flour mix? Because it's not just flour. It's actually a mix of salt and whatever it is that you use that makes your roti skin, that particular way. Maybe you can create a gluten-free version of the flour mix that you can sell. So now suddenly you don't have people coming in the shop, but you can create another way for them to still do business with you by offering them the packaged flour mix that they can probably pick up at their supermarket or have delivered to their home. How about offering online roti making classes? One of the things that Airbnb did once they, because Airbnb literally just sells people the opportunity to come to your house and shop and stay for a week, weekend, a day, or whatever. And so now people aren't traveling, and what they did was recreate their platform into something that was about experiential learning. So now you can log on to Airbnb and take a cooking class with a famous chef in France or somebody in Malaysia, and they've just now created this space where you can learn and you can do the classes at the same time. This is an opportunity that's available to you right here, that you can teach those roti making skills that you have. And I know you need a special pan and all these different things. You can do that. You can teach the classes live, or you can pre-record them and put them up available for people to take them whenever they feel like it. It's not something where you have to be stuck in front of a camera all day. You can actually get some support to actually design some classes that you can do. And suddenly this is a way that you can have increased revenue no matter the economy. And this is something I want to recommend that you do even if another lockdown doesn't happen, is find another way to teach what you know via technology, because the learning platforms, I saw some data the other day for the Caribbean alone. The Caribbean educational potential right now for online learning is about $500 million, and it's growing. And so this is an area you can tap into, because more of us are becoming confident about learning things online at our own place, and also learning from people who already have done it. So you have the roti flour, you can teach classes, but the curry, you can also create a repackaged version of the curry, your curry blend of all of the different seasonings that you put to make your curry taste the way you do. You can actually sell that. And again, this becomes an added value product that you can create, because maybe there's someone that says, okay, I'm only limiting myself to by eating out once a week, but at the same time, they can still be able to put together their favorite curry chicken at home using your blend. You can do pre-packaged roti skins. You might have to practice for a while to make sure you get your technique right. How does it preserve? How long is it good for? But then you can allow, supermarkets, or maybe people, you make them in advance, for pre-order. But look at all the different ways that you can serve this customer that you have and continue to do it. I'm picking on roti because it's a tangible thing, but imagine whatever the business that you're in, think of an added value experience that someone would be willing to pay for, and that is what you want to offer them. This can also work for farmers. Imagine if you're a farmer and you've got vegetables and seasonings and stuff. I love a good soup. Imagine if you sold me a prepackaged soup pack of veggies, so that in the mix is exactly what I need for a portion of soup. So it's sweet potatoes, it's white potatoes, it might be yam, it might be some onions and peppers and all of those carrots and all of that. And I just buy soup in a box, and I mix that with my Maggi. Or maybe you've got your own Maggi blend that you create, so that now your food isn't going to waste because somebody didn't buy it right then when it was fresh. You can find a way to extend the life of your product by repackaging it and preserving it. You own a hair salon. You've figured out techniques as how to get people with alopecia to get their hair growth back. Or maybe you've just got some sort of product that is a great moisturizer. This is something you can sell to your customers as an in-between service, so that when they're not sitting in your chair, they're daily applying it, or weekly, or whatever. It becomes an added value product that you've offering these same customers. And because they trust you with their hair, they're going to trust that the product that you've created and tested is going to work for them as well. Dressmakers, the same. So it's always about looking at the customers you have and finding those added valued experiences. Now, I just want to tell you the numbers again to WhatsApp: 496-2885, 491-7227, or 491-9064. You can call if you have questions. I'd love to answer them. If you don't want to tell me who you are, you just want to send a WhatsApp message, we'll be happy to do that as well. But one of the areas, and this is the area that my business works in, and I see it often, you've got to market yourself and your business. So any of the things I've told you, to find these customers, or even to tell these customers that you now have these additional services, you've got to put some work into marketing. Usually marketing budget is the first thing that most companies cut because they think they can do without it. But actually, this is the time when you actually need to be more energetic to be visible. And I find that this year especially, social media has gotten so noisy. There's lots of competition to hear, to see, and to sell. So how are you going to stand out? So that means you need to be willing to spend the time and the money to be visible. I'll tell you, for the Montserrat market, ZJB is probably still one of the most effective ways to get your message out. So ZJB advertising, word of mouth, and some social media consistently is really a good strategy for helping people to know about your business and what you have to offer. And nothing, I don't always like it, but WhatsApp messages work as well. Especially in the Caribbean, WhatsApp is the biggest social media tool next to Facebook to get messages. So ask their permission, but find out if your customers would be okay if you once a week, not daily. I find daily might be a much. Once a week can send them an update of your specials for the week, what's on offer, any special opportunities that you're creating, pre-orders. Maybe you work on demand, so you can check in with your customers and say, would you like to buy, are you buying onions this week? How much do you need? So I could set that aside for you, that sort of thing. Whether you're a small business or big business, it doesn't hurt to be reaching out to your customers to do that. So you should be collecting their data, their email, their telephone numbers, maybe even a birthday, so that you can tell them happy birthday. All of these different things to help people feel special and to recognize that you care about them. Right? 491-7227, 491-9064. So I talked in general about some of the things that as a business we can do to position ourselves for what is happening now and what's next. And it's important for you to take that approach to it versus running around trying 50 different new ideas when you don't have any data to choose to back it up. It's really important to do that. So the opportunities are found in what you're already doing, first of all. You have to refine the processes that you have. How long does it take for you to service a client? Is there a way for you to do that faster? How many clients do you lose because you just take too long to return an email or to return a phone call? I found here that a lot of companies and government agencies don't even acknowledge emails. And these are ways that we are showing that we're not very efficient, that we're not ready to do business, and we leave a lot of money on the table that way because we don't treat the customer or the caller as if they're important to us. Remember, you need them for the bottom line.
All right. You want me to ask a question?
Sure, go right ahead.
You kind of beat me on the radio thing, the media thing, having been involved in media for a while. And what I've noticed, across the Caribbean, but probably in Montserrat, and maybe you could put in your part in that. What about the size of the population, one? And how do you convince people that when they figure things are bad, that it's actually a good time to advertise? Because there's this concept that, things are bad right now, so I'm not going to advertise, I'm going to wait. And as you pointed out, somebody else might be advertising during that bad time. So one of the questions is, how do you, somebody like you in the business, convince them, or us, convince people now is actually the time to advertise, and how do those people convince themselves, hey, now is actually the time to advertise?
Okay, so we talked about looking at the numbers. When you know what's happening, if your customers are coming in and you've talked to your customers, why aren't they coming in, Is it sometimes it's because they've shifted to somebody else who was more visible to them and they almost forget. We live in such a noisy space that the person who is loudest usually gets the attention. And so if someone has made the extra effort to call me, sent me a WhatsApp to say, hey, I'm selling peas this week, or I have plantain. Now we know plantain is real, right? And I got my plantain delivered to me. That saved me having to go to the supermarket. I was like, oh, but I always have plantain. Yeah, but that person called me 2 days ago. and told me they had planting, and I knew in advance it was coming and I budgeted for it. So what I usually do is, after you've looked at those numbers, it's not that you're not going to spend. You have to spend something. You have to decide, what are we going to spend money on? And you want to spend money in areas that are going to add value to your company. So I said you may have cut paper, you may have found other ways to cut back, but you are now going to invest in creating attention to allow your customers or new customers to see that you are there. And yes, radio is still, especially for the Montserrat market, still a very viable option for doing that. And you add that up to with social media and the way that Monstrattians use social media, I think it's a good partnership to have. But you have to do it consistently. With social media, the traction that you used to have 10 years ago when you say hello, you don't have it now, because Facebook wants you to pay big money to pay. And they had less than 50% lose, even though they're spending more money. So it tells you that the value is going to cost us a lot more to get attention on social media. So we have to mix the different ways that we do that. Nothing beats old school. Hey, how you doing? We're selling spinach this week. Market. One of the people I think that's doing it really well right now would be VIP, Culture Dawn, and the VIP Seafood Fridays. I always feel for seafood even when I don't want seafood. They make me think I need to come up with seafood budget money.
So basically always in the people's faces.
Yes, you do.
Not to take up your show.
Go right ahead.
But so we should give credit to all those small vendors, those agricultural people who go around selling this and selling that, who are out there making their presence felt, always in people's faces. It's a good thing to do. And also making your product yourself more attractive. Like,
Yes.
hey, as you rightly pointed out, because I've seen it, and you in the business, you've seen it a lot, you'll probably get vexed in that. You ask somebody, because we are face-to-face, let's say you and I right now, face-to-face, and I'll ask you, so what do you have? And you say, check my Facebook page. And not realizing the person now get vexed with you and say, listen, that's too much work.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that? Having that person right in front of you, a potential customer, and they ask you, so what do you have? What do you have to say to those people who figure social media is it until the person check my Facebook page?
No, it's got to be a mix of all. We are still Caribbean people. We still like face-to-face. We still, unfortunately, when we can't social distance and hug and lime, we still love connection. So connection is important. So if that person is standing in front of you, you need to be able to sell them on what it is you have. And you need to be able to tell them, I have eggs today. I'm going to have plantains by Friday, and it's going to be about $6 or $7 or whatever it is a pound. You can pre-order so that I save you some. You've got to be able to sell yourself and your service very, very clearly. Okay, this person says, very good program, good advice to the local entrepreneur. I'm happy you're teaching them that they have to cut what is necessary for their business to excel. Thank you for that feedback. It's not always the first thing that we want to do, but we have to be willing, like I said, to change our mind, to allow ourselves to see that what was working isn't. I will tell you this. Last year even, I got into 2019 kind of saying, I'm going to do more writing, I'm going to do more this. And the thing is, I love writing novels and stuff, but writing novels takes work. And while I'm writing novels, I'm not necessarily earning revenue for anything else, because I have to sit down and just write novels. But in the meantime, I've got rent to pay. I've got things to do. And so one of the things that I've had to do, I've had to take an honest look at what are the things in my business that actually make me money now, what makes money long term, and then think, okay, I can say I'm going to write, but I can't spend the 40 hours a week writing, because then I would never have earned any revenue. So I have to balance that with my personal desires to be a writer versus operating a business which says I have to serve my customers, and I have to serve my customers the things that they want the most. And that's important for us to do, is to be very honest. Some of us started businesses to fulfill a particular need, but now our customers are telling us we need something else. And we can't keep being stuck on that. We have to now be willing to change our mind and shift and say, hey, this is what my customers are asking for. And I have enough customers. I'm not talking one or two that have, a small thing that they want. I'm saying if the majority of your customers are requesting you to do something else, I think that's something that you should follow up on. I'm very concerned for if we use the example that you just talked about with the vegetable people in our face. If you were to have another lockdown where they couldn't be out there, unless we have a situation where, of course, now you have days, a particular day of the week to go to the supermarket or shop, they're now being restricted as to what they can do. So it's important that along with that you have an online space that people can reach you, even if it is that you're collecting the WhatsApp numbers for all your regular customers. So you can tell them, okay, they lock us down, but here on Friday, I'll be so-and-so place and I'll save your plantains for you or your pumpkin or whatever. So you can already have pre-orders as to what's available.
A lot of times we use the word incentives. What advice do you have for people who have a business to give that incentive? Like, they're buying something, you're a regular customer, so they might give you and say, take this as a good customer. What do you think about that? Because big businesses do it. They always have some sort of little catch to give you, and you say, wow, I'm getting this. Like, for example, let's say during the holidays, Christmas time, you get this, you get that, on whatever level.
Okay, so at Christmas, when I get my supermarket gives me a bottle of cider, that's actually something that's going to come out of their marketing budget. So they have taken something from this side and put it over in as an expense, but hopefully it's going to return, that you're going to come back in there and say, oh, okay, I didn't know that they sell that cider, and I come back and buy a case for my New Year's Eve party. You understand? So there is a benefit. So when you give something, it needs to be, you need to be able to give it understanding the value of what you're giving and be able to now to say, okay, that's now a marketing expense and I can consider that it was a worthwhile investment. A lot of times we want companies to just give us stuff, but we don't understand the true value of what it costs them to give that. And as a company as well, we should be very clear about what we can afford to give away. A lot of people love discounts, but discounts actually come at a cost as well. So you have to factor in the cost of that discount when you start doing that. Alrighty. So the opportunities are going to be found first in refining your process, eliminating your excess, retraining yourself and your team to do better service, and finding ways to create digital experiences for your customers to continue to work with you. One of the people that I am working with, she's an entrepreneur. I really admire her overseas. But one of the things she talks about is understanding what your competitive advantage is. What do I do better than anyone else? We often around here, people tend to copy what they see someone else do, and we get intimidated because somebody else has entered the space. But it's important that the next person isn't going to do it the way you do it. And so clearly sit down and identify what is your competitive advantage. Why do I love when going to that particular shop? Is it because the sales clerk is always smiling? Is it because they always have what I need, because they just seem to be very good at knowing what the demand is and always paying attention to that so that they never run out? Don't you hate to go to a shop and they're always out of the stuff that you need, although they know it's in demand? So things like that give you a competitive advantage, because I will know that certain people always have that. So for instance, lots of people here do barbecue, but not everybody does jerk chicken. And we could probably think of 2 or 3 places that do jerk, but then we'll know who we think makes the best jerk. Like, I remember Nadine, when we first came here, Nadine used to do jerk on the little alley on the back of her supermarket. She didn't have the space that she had now, but it was always lined up on a Friday. You had to wait hours for your barbecue. And we watched over time how she's expanded, but she's also made her service more efficient to continue to keep customers happy. Because you would hate that 10 years later we were all still squeezing into the little alley to try to get barbecue, because nothing has changed. We're changing, and we're demanding that our companies and the people that we do business change and adapt as well. So just because you always just told me um, here, come get this. I'm online now. I want to be able to check your Facebook page to see if you have something. I want to be able to see your website as another way, if that's possible for your business to check something. We have to modernize the ways people are going to communicate with us, because we are doing it for the services we acquire overseas. Why do we think or expect less from the people who do business around us? So it's important to find ways that you can improve your competitive advantage. How is your location an asset? And I know sometimes there are people who are working from home, and so maybe it's an asset for you because you don't have the overall expenses of of a business up front. But begin to look at the different things around you. How is your team an asset to you growing your company? How is the skills that you have an asset? And begin to quantify these assets and see, okay, how can I leverage them even more to get out of that? One of the things I've been doing in this season is going back to school, taking classes online to learn different things, just to improve myself. I've been reading extensively because I want to understand what other people are experiencing, but what other people are also doing as it relates to how they're doing business and thinking about how to thrive. So this is a good time to go back and upskill yourself. Maybe it's been 5 or 10 years since you got certified. There have been new advancements and techniques since then. Can you take an online course and improve that, and then tell your customers, guess what? We're now offering so and so because I've now been certified to do that, and here we're ready now, and it's going to cost you XYZ. So despite what is happening, we have to be looking for ways to continue to grow, because human nature is that we're always going to be looking forward, and hopefully with hope. You know, you look at your kids, and whether, even though you got that cute baby at home, they don't stay small. As much as you want them to, they don't stay small. And so life is going to keep happening. And we have to be willing to continue to grow and change with that. Do you have any questions? No? Come on. 491-7227. I am actually really good. I enjoy problem solving for businesses. So if you have a particular challenge that you are facing and you just want to have some general feedback or an opinion on it, would love to do that. You can actually WhatsApp your message to 496-2885 if you don't want people to know who you are. You don't have to tell me who the business is, what the business is or whatever, but just give me a general synopsis and we can brainstorm some ways to help you. For everyone, I am going to be creating an assessment tool that you can use to put some of the ideas that I've given here into practice. So if you email me at Nerissa, Nerissa, at trulycaribbean.net. So Nerissa, Nerissa, at TURLYCARIBBEAN.net. I will be happy to send you the assessment tool. Tell me where in the world you are, because I'm aware that some people may be overseas. Tell me the sector, the kind of business that you're in, and if you want, you can tell me a little bit about the challenge that you're having. And I'll be happy to send you the notes for my presentation, but also just a tool that you can use to help you hit some of these, collect the data, and maybe make some assessments on what you should do next. Happy to do that for you. This presentation has been part of Financial Information Month. There are other presentations that will be happening this week. There is another one on turning your frown upside down. It's going to be more generally focused. There's also going to be other presentations on going online, which is why I did not go specifically into those areas, because I don't want to co-opt other people's presentations and to give you a chance to grow. But I do hope what I've shared has been helpful in some way. This is going to be available on the GIU page that you can rewatch. I am always happy to take your questions on Facebook or via my website, nerissagolden.com. And hopefully in a few months, I've got a new product coming that I hope will help lots of us just to push ahead even more. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But be blessed. Remember, the world is abundant, and so is Montserrat. And I believe in you. Take care.
Okay, so there it is, all part of what's happening for Financial Information Month 2020. And from Golden Media, we had the hostess herself, Nerissa Golden, and she did that live interactive presentation right here on ZJB Radio on 95.5, 88.3 FM, and also online at www.zjbradio.com. Stay tuned, we have more presentations which will be carried out throughout the month here on ZJB. It is 16 minutes until 12 o'clock.
Keeping Montserrat alive. This is 95.5, 88.3 FM, ZJB Radio.